Thank you for joining us for the webinar this morning, where we will share how you can be prepared for Oracle software updates with FloATS. I'm Michiel Keizer, and I'm CEO for Flow Group, and I'll be hosting today's session. So first, let me introduce our speakers for today. We have Dave Edge from Univar Solutions, and Univar is a global chemicals and ingredients distributor that manages all their complex transportation with OTM. Dave has been managing the solutions through the optimization journey and can share all the challenges and learnings, especially with how automated testing has really helped Dave and his team to manage their solution with confidence. We also have Martin Slotman from Oracle, who of course knows all about the Oracle Cloud solutions and has a wealth of experience in the industry and has come across managing solutions in many situations, and very interested to hear Martin's perspective on that. And then last but not least, we have Chris Turley and myself from Flow Group. And Chris is our expert in our Flow product and offerings, and will give you all you need to know about FloATS. Next slide, please, Valerie. So I'll start with giving you a little bit of background on Flow, who we are and what we do as Flow Group. And then after that, I'll hand over to Martin, who will give you all the information you need to understand the Oracle Cloud solutions and all the rich enhancements in our update cycles. Then next, we have Chris, who will explain that what FloATS is, and Dave, who will share the first-hand experience of what it's like to live with FloATS and how it helps to manage the updates, and really how value has been gained from Flow's automated testing service. At the end, we'll have time for Q&A, and if you have any questions through the session, please drop it in the chat, and we will try to cover all of them at the end of the session. So, quick introduction to Flow. So we are a global team of experts focusing on implementing, maintaining, and integrating Oracle logistics solutions. We do Oracle. We are focused on transportation management, global trade management, and warehouse management solutions. We also develop our own solutions, our own products to help your journey to help you in your journey to full logistics optimization. We have Evolve, we have a number of other products, and FloATS is actually a combination of a product and a service, but more about that later. We have a team, the largest team globally in terms of OTM experts, and we are growing very rapidly. We are very much growing, and we've just in the last 12 months we've added more than 50 people to a team, which for us is really considerable. And as you can see here, we cover the globe. We follow our clients throughout the world, and we do that with our global team of experts. And a fun fact on that, we've never failed an implementation. So that's it about us. I'll hand over to Martin now, who will tell us all you need to know about the Oracle Cloud solutions. And let's get moving with the real content. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Michiel. Basically, they asked me to talk a little bit about the automated testing and why it's important within the Oracle Cloud solution. Today, it's more focused on the Oracle Transportation Management. And basically, what I've done is I've created here a slide to give you more insight on the OTM solution. Yeah? So OTM went to the cloud in 2015, and since that time, we have over 700 customers live with our solutions, and we have go lives with new customers every week. And we also do that most of the time with Flow as one of our biggest partners in implementations. Now, if you then look at the OTM Cloud solutions, we deliver constantly new features and new functionality. And that means that we enrich the functionality within our versions. And that also means that with the new coming functions, you need to test the new version that is brought by Oracle to you in your solutions. If you look at the partner ecosystem, we have about 70 partners that can help you with that. And for now, we are over 15 years in the leadership charts of Gartner and Q. So why Oracle OTM and why together with FloATS is basically what I'm saying here. So we have one comprehensive TMS cloud platform for all inbound and outbound transportation flows, and that's also what Dave can tell you a lot about. And we bring with that cloud solution, we bring it faster time to value with our cloud accelerators and also with the orchestration, but also with the new testing capability that is brought by FloATS that we will show later on in this presentation by Dave and by Chris. It's a market-leading solution, and we do that in a partnership with Flow as one of our strategic SCM partner, also with 250 joint customers throughout the whole globe. And we also see that Flow is one of our important partners in the joint product development that we are doing together with them on the OTM solution, but also on the WMS solution and also on the GTM solution, Global Trade Management solution. If you look at Oracle, since that we released the Oracle Cloud Solution, we spent over 6 billion in R&D on our product to make it strong. And I don't know if most of you in this call know that, but when we moved from our on-premise product to the cloud product, we redesigned the whole code base. So that means that we are now running on top-notch technology with a cloud product. Now, last point is that with Flow, we also bring in the strong project governance to support our customers together with our own customer success organization. Now, if you look at the OTM Cloud solution, we are running 3 updates per year. Now, most of my customers are then asking, why 3? Now, most of our customers have high season in the last part of the last quarter of the year. So that means that if we are not doing any updates, then absolutely needed in quarter 4 of the year. Now, updates contain the announcements and the key fixtures, but also the new product enhancements that are selected by customers by using Customer Connect. Now, next to standard updates that we are doing in the February, May, August timeframe for the update A, update B, and update C, as you can see on the slide. We also provide our customers with patching that are requested by a customer, and that also is taken into account in the testing cycle. Now, if you look at the cycles from Oracle on the cloud environment, you will have 2 environments normally when you work with OTM Cloud. You can also buy additional environments, but with the 2 environments, we are delivering to your test and acceptance environment the new release. What we expect from our customers is that 4 weeks before, that you review the materials, that you update your test plan, that you check your test environment, and that you prepare the XML slides. Now, what Chris and Dave are going to show you later up in the demo, how you can do that, and also automate that with FloATS. I think this slide is self-explanatory, and I put it here in for the handout. So have a look after the event. And I think this is a good time to hand over to Chris to explain so can help you with automated testing.
Thank you very much, Ron. Yeah, a very good intro, and as you rightly say, it sets it up nicely. So I will talk on automated testing for OTM updates. So talk a bit about what Flow Group have been doing with automated testing over the last few years, and then hand over to Dave from Univar to talk about their kind of real first-hand use case. So if I could go to the next slide, please, Valerie. The question, why FloATS? It was an investment from Flow a few years back, understanding that the challenge in the cloud is regular releases. So great opportunity coming from that. You're on the latest version of software, you've got these new features, you've got enhancements, but understanding how that will impact the solution you're running today. That's the key of FloATS. So how do I regression test? How do I ensure that with 3 updates per year, I'm not going to suffer any downtime or any user issues related to that cycle? So yeah, as these opportunities flow, and I think Martin summed this up quite well. So we have the quarterly update cycle. Within that cycle, you've got new features being released, you've got enhancements, improvements, you've got customer requests and patches. So you've got a bundle of new features. For each one of these updates, that's the key for FloATS. You've really got to understand what is changing. So Oracle's release notes are very good, but they can be quite long. I think Dave can testify to that. So we've seen for 22B, which is the current cycle, there's about 16 pages of update notes, and actually kind of digesting that, understanding it, relating it to what you're running today in OTM can be quite tricky. So what is changing? What are the new features? Is there anything on that list that we want to take advantage of as a business? And if we do, what's the impact? What is that going to change in our solution? So we know towards the end of this year in OTM 22C, there are quite a few user interface changes, but how is that going to impact my day-to-day use of OTM? How do we manage that change? So we've mapped it, we understand what is changing, what's being released, what the impact is, but how do we actually manage that? So I think Martin said quite nicely 4 weeks before, typically 4 weeks before the cycle, you're expected to have a look at those release notes and to understand them. But then how do we actually map that into what do we need to change to make this effective for our business? And once we've done that, how do we validate that those changes have been affected and are not going to impact the solution? So that's very much the question. How can we proactively detect and solve issues before we deploy an upgrade? And we very much think the answer is FloATS. That is the reason for the investment by Flow in automated testing. So FloATS is quality automated testing service from OTM experts. But what does that mean? Michiel quite rightly said we have the largest team globally of OTM experts. So we've been working with the product for many years, implemented for many customers, a deep understanding of how OTM runs in practice for different customers in different industries around the world. But generating a test service from that obviously means that we have to build test cases, test scenarios. We have to set up an execution of that alongside your cloud release cycle. So as Martin said, we have A, B, and C this year. A has been completed in March. B is currently in progress. That will happen in June. Towards this end of this year, in September, we will have C. So we need to set up an execution cycle that runs alongside that upgrade process, gives you the confidence then that you're testing and you're understanding what's changing each time. So it works for OTM. FloATS is not specific to OTM. It works with any web-based application. So we fully understand that OTM is often in an ecosystem of other solutions, and we're looking at FloATS covering an end-to-end flow. So not just in OTM, but other web-based applications outside of it. So we're comprehensive testing. We're comprehensively covering an application, and we're running FloATS alongside these cloud upgrades to give you the confidence that your users will not suffer any impact. And obviously, when we execute, we have to iterate. So FloATS has to evolve alongside the changes you're doing in your OTM environment, whether that be driven by the quarterly releases or driven by improvements, enhancements, and changes that you make on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So FloATS is covering that full cycle, and I'd just like to focus a bit on build, then execute, and just explain what we mean by those two. So this is a typical build cycle for FloATS. So one of the great things about FloATS, we've architected a platform. On top of that platform sits your test cases and your test scenarios. But all of the complexity is hidden in the platform. From a user perspective of FloATS, it's very straightforward. Things are written in plain language. So we're instructing a browser, we're instructing a screen to do certain actions so that you effectively don't have to do that manually. That's the automation part. But to get there, we have to build out the service. So to do that, we look at your existing test scenarios, your UAT scripts, potentially, your test documentation, and we do an analysis of that and a feasibility report. So can all of that be automated? Is it possible? Do some things need to be done manually? But really to look at the feasibility for automated testing of the whole end-to-end solution. Based on that analysis, we then start to plan and to scope the FloATS development. So we'll look at the strategic testing approach, we'll look at the cycles, we'll look at the abstraction of the test cases from the test platform, we'll look at any development that needs going into the test platform. So are you looking to trigger different systems or different instructions than we have available? There will be a plan, a scope phase where we define all of that and we take that then into test design. So here we're building out your test cases. You see at the bottom, typically, this is a typical timeline based on 125 test scripts that need to be developed. That was roughly around the number that Univar needed to cover their end-to-end solution. I think Dave can mention something on that. But the 12 weeks cycle, so yeah, this whole process happening in 12 weeks is based on 125 test scripts. And in the test design, we're designing all of those test cases, we're designing the test scripts, we're putting the framework together, we're then deploying that. So yeah, again, taking that, developing it, and we do a one-time execution to make sure what's been built is functioning. So again, that will then generate a test report, and from that test report, you will be able to see a pass fail. And again, we'll come to that at a later slide. So that is a typical build cycle. And what does execute mean? So this is the timeline for 22A. So this is the release that happened in OTM at the start of the year, as I'm sure everyone is well aware. But actually, Flow Group are, as a partner, on a pre-release schedule. So we get the 22A upgrade, 22B upgrade, a couple of months before any of the customers are upgraded. And what that does is it gives us a chance to run floats against our internal OTM environment and to identify at that point early indicators of impact and what might affect customers. So then we're doing, as Martin says, 4 weeks before the upgrade, we're doing the impact assessment. And actually, as floats as a service, we're taking that stress away from your team. So we are doing that impact assessment. We're understanding what is changing, what's being enhanced, how that's impacting your solution. And we're giving you a document that then explains that. And that impact assessment then is a trigger for any rework. So we know something is changing, and we know that either there needs to be something changed in OTM or in floats, potentially. It could be either. So the impact assessment then informs the rework, and we've then got the actual test cycle. So we're running floats on your test environment before you've gone to the new version. So before 22A upgrade in test environment, we're running floats as a baseline. So that then gives us what the solution looks like today. Is everything functioning? Are all the test cases passing? We then post the upgrade, so your OTM environment is upgraded to the latest version. We then run floats after that post upgrade, and then that gives us the comparison. So has anything been broken, changed as a result of that upgrade? And obviously by doing that, post upgrade, you then got another test report that gives you exactly what needs to change or doesn't need to change. Providing all test cases are passed, you can then upgrade your OTM production environment with complete confidence. So you know that your test environment functions exactly as you expect it to. Let's take prod to, let's take that upgrade to prod. And obviously the benefits of that are multiple, but there is very much a quantitative benefit. So we did this analysis with Dave at Univar as to how long it takes to test manually. And that manual test effort is very much going through all of the different screens in OTM, making sure that all of the different buttons are working, making sure that your planners can go through their planning cycle, that your invoice clerks can go through their invoice cycle. So very much testing, clicking, doing a lot of manual effort. And this is just the time it takes to actually test the system. So this wouldn't then include the impact assessment and really understanding how things are changed. So that time soon starts to stack up when you're looking at 3 upgrades a year. The benefit of doing this in an automated way, we take that from a week's worth of effort down to 2 hours. So we're running floats usually overnight so as not to impact any processes, and we're providing the report thereafter. But it's a 2-hour cycle. So we click start, it runs, takes 2 hours, you then get your results. And obviously what that means is you're recouping that investment quickly. So the more you run floats, obviously the more you save 3 times a year, you're still looking at a pretty quick return on investment. Alongside the more quantitative benefits, if you could take me to the next slide then, please, Valerie. We have the more qualitative benefits, I would say. So one is very much around accuracy. So whilst a manual process, people can click through the buttons, people can understand what's going on. There will be errors, there will be mistakes, there will be attention issues or other problems that occur in that process. So with this automation, with everything being automated and scripted, we're very much running it consistently and accurately. So you're getting results, based on real world what's happening in the system. There's no scope for error in that. As I mentioned earlier, we're providing full coverage. So this is the OTM application plus, and it can be plus other web service based applications. Many people on this call using OTM will have some visibility platform or demand planning platform, other web services applications connected to OTM, and we can cover that full end-to-end scope. It's repeatable. So again, once the framework is built, we're iterating it alongside executing it, but it is repeatable. You can run it potentially as many times as you'd need to throughout a year. So whilst we're talking specifically about the Oracle Cloud updates, as Martin mentioned, there are requests for patches throughout the year. There may be changes you do as a result of just improvements or enhancements to the business. so very much repeatable and can be run at request. As we said before, it's a service, so it's a request call to Flow to run that float script for you. We're providing very detailed reporting, so actually you get a high-level report and a drill-down report as the output for each floats run. So the high-level report, very much a management summary, how many test cases have failed, how many test cases have passed, and the drill down, you can then go into those failures. You can click down, you can see screenshots of where errors have occurred. You can see exactly where issues have occurred. That is really the key with that report. So it's not just, it's not just showing you what's wrong. It's drilling down. It's giving you a real indication of what you need to fix. I think that's a superb benefit to it. And really, this all then drills down to confidence. So I mentioned this. The key for each upgrade cycle is ensuring that your users are confident and your users will continue to use the solution in confidence after. So as a management team, in Dave's role as a head of transport execution, he's got the confidence that when he goes through that upgrade cycle, hands the solution back to his team, that it runs as they expect it to run. And I think that confidence in itself is a very strong motive for floats. I think you might find that's the last of my slides. So I will hand over to Dave. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Martin. So just to build on everything that Chris and Martin have provided at the start of this webinar today, why floats for Univar solutions? So when you look at an Oracle update, an Oracle upgrade, and this one here is 21A, so this is when we first started with floats. You can see that when you look back in 2021, ignore COVID, doesn't exist anymore. All those restrictions have gone. But when you come to March, the 21A update to the OTM test system, when the test system was actually updated, we lost access to an interface, a key interface between our ERP, SAP, and OTM. And that was due to the change of one of the opt-ins. And one of the XML validations that was originally set as opt-out now became an opt-in. And additionally, that was going to become a mandatory opt-in in release 21C. So that's something that before we used floats and had the ability to use floats, as you can see from the update data that you receive from Oracle, unless you fully understand the intrinsic nature of what's changing, it's very difficult for you to get hold of that information. So we only found out once we'd lost access. So then what did we do? How do we mitigate it? It's a live planning system. So obviously, if you think about our planning, any downtime can cause issues with planning, securing carriers, and especially in an already difficult market situation. So, and just for comedy value, I didn't panic, but I reached out to Flow. And the reason I did that is because we'd already held some conversations regarding floats from previously. And now at this time, it was even more important. And what made it even more critical is that we had 5 months to prepare for that 21C update. So we knew something had happened at 21A. We were able to react because it wasn't mandatory, but it was going to be mandatory in the C upgrade, which is the September release. So we knew that we had to be able to respond by that time frame. So it automatically gave us a reason why we needed to reach out to Flow, and so we did. So the value of floats, and to build on the value of floats. So before we had our 21C upgrade, this is the floats testing results screen that you can see here. So we had a time frame, as Chris has alluded to before, approximately 12 weeks to get ready for 21C. And in that time frame, we built and tested 94 automatically. It was around about 2,300 steps, and all of those had passed successfully as we built floats. So all the execution, the test scripts, any manual feeds that we need to be concerned with, so that Univar Solutions was comfortable, and I was comfortable that when we got to that upgrade at 21C, we were not going to have any loss of live service. So OTM Cloud in the live environment production, there was going to be no loss of service. After the upgrade, so test production test is upgraded, and then production is upgraded, and the same execution runs. And that execution, we did 89 tests that automatically passed through. There were 6 fails, and those 6 fails we wouldn't have captured without FloATS. They were opt-in changes that we could opt out in September, which was 21C, but then they become mandatory in 22A, which is the March upgrade. So as you can see, we're already, by the value of FloATS, we're already being able to see what can keep us running, but also the potential of what's coming next, because some of these opt-ins, you get the upgrade before advises you that it's going to become mandatory because it changes from an opt-out to an opt-in. But then you also know from all the Oracle data that is released by Oracle to advise you that it's going to become a mandatory opt in the next release. So just an example here, just from 21A to 21C, just gives you the confidence that before we worked with FloATS, we didn't have any of this information. Unless you understood the Oracle data, and as Chris alluded to, it's around about 16 pages long. Unless you understand the technical aspects of all that data, you're not going to be able to respond effectively. And then there's a risk that you may lose access, as we did in 21A. There's a risk that you may have difficulties in any planning, and as a live system, as all of you on the call and anybody in the future, you will know that as a live planning system, you have to react and respond effectively on a daily basis, and you can't do that obviously if you have any difficulties in the cloud. So one thing that we looked at prior to 22A, our test scripts actually increased, and that's something that Chris did mention before, that what we're doing now is, as we work with Flow, we're building on our test scripts that we initially developed, and we're actually adding any improvements or future developments that we've included. So we're currently in the process of doing track and trace, and as part of that track and trace, we have the ability now to add that same functionality into the scripts, so that we can then test those as well to ensure that the next upgrade is the most recent version of our cloud domain. So as you can see in the 22, prior to that, we did a test of 160 with no fails. And also all the mandatory features were tested as well, just to ensure that there was no impact. So you can see the value that we're getting from Flow and from FloATS that gives us that confidence that we're really comfortable that everything that's tested prior to a release and an upgrade is not impacting our solution, our live solution. I've said it quite a few times, but it gives us the confidence. It allows OTM to run effectively without worry, and not like it was back in March 2021. We have that support network with Flow, meaning that any testing runs coinciding with the next Oracle upgrade. As Chris mentioned, obviously Flow as a main partner gets their upgrade on their internal system in advance of us. So they're able to test those updates to ensure that their system runs effectively, which gives them the confidence to us that if Flow is working effectively, our test scripts will run effectively, which means that we have that confidence. Flow support, obviously, as Chris mentioned, it runs in approximately 2 hours. And if you give that some context, I could review the release documentation, not understand the complexity of actual changes, and I could be working on that for days or even weeks, and as a sideline to my day-to-day role, which means that if I was to do the manual testing, I could be running that for 40, 50, 60 hours, and I still probably would miss some of the technical background data that I wouldn't understand. And also Flow support provides the full results of after any run of the FloATS solution. So we're currently in the process of going through 22B, which the test system was actually upgraded at the weekend, just gone. So I've received now the test scripts for 22B that I will then run through to make sure that Flow has already confirmed that everything is successful and there's no issues with the upgrade. But I just then have a very quick review just to understand that we're comfortable with that solution and there's no issues going forward when the release is made to prod. So the benefits. So We've got confidence. There's no loss of OTM production. We've got a time saving. We're not having to read documentation and run testing in OTM test. And remember that the production test to production upgrade is usually around about 2 weeks apart. So the pressure's on. You've got a very short period of time to respond. And we get that support network with Flow AMS and Flow ATS to support the solution. Remembering there's 3 upgrades per year, we get the full results and fact finding for any fail, including the potential for any solutions that we need to put in place. And it's a friendly reporting document, and you can drill down into the issues quickly. There's a couple of screenshots in these slides that just show you at a very high level, but you can very quickly drill into the detail of each of those results to see if there's anything you need to investigate or work with Flow and for any solutions. Okay. Thank you. And that was my last slide, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dave. Really interesting. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Martin. I think my biggest takeaway in general, FloATS, is, you know, in the whole, I mean, the move to cloud. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, right, Martin? I think we're about 7 years down the road. But there's one, you know, it comes with a lot of benefits. Obviously, it's a very strong strategy. It also comes for people who run cloud solutions, SaaS solutions. It comes with a big responsibility, and I think that's what you point out really well, Dave, and that you've had to find out the hard way what the impact can be, and how, yeah, together we now have a setup that prevents that from happening. I think that's super valuable. And I think also, yeah, really, you know, I could imagine one of the biggest takeaways for the audience today. The reporting, Dave, and how, you know, it helps you in learning about what's coming, and also maybe the element of being able to get the benefits from cloud, what's coming up. I mean, on the one hand, it's a big benefit of not having to review and not having to dig through the risks. Do you still run through the release notes to learn, you know, what the opportunities are? Because I think that's also a very interesting angle. By not having to focus on the risks so much, you can maybe focus more on the opportunities that the cloud solution brings. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's one key important thing there, Mikhail, is that like you say, because I'm not having to touch on the risks and the issues,
yeah,
I can then look at what I can do to improve the solution. So obviously in the cloud environment, it's very structured, but it does give you the opportunity to make improvements for your planners, for accounts payable in finance, in terms of the processes that we manage through. And what we have the ability to do now, working with Flow as well, because you're our technical support as well in terms of improvements, is that you give us that ability that we're comfortable now, we've covered the risks, so now let's look at the improvements. So there's quite a few that we're currently working on, as you're well aware. And part of those now are we're able to do that because we're not having to concentrate so much on making sure that the production environment is never at risk. So track and trace, for example, we're currently in the process of rolling that out. We've got some improvements on the freight settlement piece that we're currently in the process of rolling out. And all of those have come based on the release note improvements that Oracle have provided over the last 6 to 12 months. So we've now moved away from let's make sure it works every day to now how can we improve that system and make it work more effectively for people and more automated and more streamlined, because you start on the cloud in its basic form, and then you build your structure and your improvements accordingly as you start to learn. And we've been doing it now since 2017. So I would never say I'm an expert in it, but I've learned a lot over the last 5 years to be able to now work with Flow and understand how we can make it better.
Yeah. No, really, yeah. I think it's, I mean, obviously, we're really happy to have you on the webinar because it's a great story. But I think that's really what resonates with me most, Dave. The move from having to worry about the system and being sort of risk focused to being able, with the help of of Flow and FloATS, and also obviously really getting to the core of what Oracle brings to the table, with all the investments and all, Martin, you referred to all the investments that Oracle is doing in developing new features and functions. And we know the people in product management and product strategy really well. I mean, that's what they live for, to come very frequently with and constantly enriching the application. If you have to look back all the time, you can't focus on that. And that's the step that you and Univar clearly have taken. And yeah, I'm personally very proud to be part of that. That's really, thanks for sharing that. Opening up to the audience. Any question? I don't think I've seen any questions in the chat yet. While we wait, I mean, Martin, do you have any further reflections after Chris's and Dave's?
No. So I'm in the supply chain industry now for 20 years, and what you see with the coming up cloud solution is also what Dave said. If you really want to benefit from it, you need to be able to look at the new innovations that software companies like Oracle are bringing to the plate. It's not only our company, but it's with all cloud solutions. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you automate the product life cycle management with the customer, and that's basically what FloATS does. Because with the new developments and new innovations that we bring to our software and the automated testing, you are creating time to value and time to market to swallow and to accept new innovations that we bring to the platform. And basically what Dave said himself was very interesting in that. You said that normally you should go through the nodes, and it would take you 40 to 60 hours to see if there is a fail within production, going from test to production. And basically with the automated testing, you save those 40 to 60 hours to focus on innovations and to focus on how you can bring more time to value to your company. And that's basically my takeaway as a sales. Maybe that's also what I see at other customers, that with this way of automated testing, they save a lot of time and thus money to spend on other things. But Dave, if there are not any other questions, so you did now 3 cycles with FloATS, and you explained also how it is displayed and how you get that out of your management report. How is this accepted by the rest of your company?
Yeah, I mean, the one key understanding now is from the business that there's that comfort. Yeah, I think I've said it plenty of times, but it's the comfort now that I don't need to go to IT on our internal basis and say, I've got a problem and we need to respond effectively and we need to respond quickly. I've removed that risk, and that gives internally both our SAP IT structure and also my line management and our supply chain organization that we don't need to shout and scream because something's going to go wrong. We've removed and mitigated that risk effectively, and if we do need to respond, at least because we're using the FloATS solution, we can respond in a timely manner. We're not risking anything in production by having to chase. So we're being proactive now, and that's one of the key things I see with the cloud is if you can get ahead of it, you can start to work more effectively in the cloud. Whereas what we noticed in 21A, we were being really reactive, and then that put the pressure on that we had to get FloATS in place. We had to get it. We had to be ahead of the curve, and that now that we're ahead of the curve, it gives everybody that comfort in the organisation that we're okay in OTM and the cloud's working effectively. So now, as I've said before, we can look at how we can improve with all the releases that Oracle make and all the investment that they're making in improvements. Where can Univar Solutions benefit from those, and what can we implement to benefit from those?
And if you look at that, so using FloATS for OTM, are you also looking to use the FloATS system for other cloud solutions that you are using within Univar?
Not currently, but there is obviously we're aware that can be used on further cloud applications. The stability of what we have now is what gives me the biggest comfort from a cloud solution on other impacts. That's my IT directors and people that would need to discuss that on their cloud versions. But there is as we're aware that other cloud solutions can fit into FloATS, then of course it's something we can look at to implement in the future, because we know it's available for that same comfort and support.
Yeah, that was also good to share with the group that it's not only built for OTM, but it's also usable for other cloud solutions that are in the market, and also other Oracle products like global trade management, but also WMS, and that was my point. Anything that you want to share to as a giveaway, Dave, to the crowd?
Yeah, I suppose the main giveaway is consider it. Really consider it. As part of the cloud organization, you're structured to those releases from Oracle, including the patches that happen from time to time. And I really would implore people to really consider that if you want a comfortable solution, if you want a comfortable life, then I think it gives you the ability to look ahead instead of chasing everything. And we were very lucky because we've been live in Oracle now for 5 years. So it was May 2017 when we started. So in theory, we've had our fingers crossed for the first 3.5 years because we didn't do anything about it. It was only when we had to respond and we were forced to respond that we've done something about it. So we've almost got away with it for 3.5 years. And I would say to people, don't take that risk if you don't need to take that risk. I would say that the benefit of this solution gives you the comfort that it works. It's quick. It's easy to implement in theory, based on the scripts that we had available and the UAT data that we had available. Flow were able to work with that and build those scripts into FloATS quite effectively. As you can see, we did it in 12 weeks. And now that means that our system is covered and we can improve on that system. So we've already added an extra 30 something scripts, I think, into the file because of improvements that we've made in the system over the last 12 months, which means that then we've got even more coverage in our system. So yeah, I suppose one key takeaway is listen to what we said today. From me, I would say it's very beneficial and it will give you that support and comfort and guidance. And it allows you to look ahead in the cloud and improve your system even further.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think
thank you for. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, go on, Martin.
Thank you for being an early adopter of our cloud solution, because you were very brave of jumping on our platform in 2017 when we released it in 2015. So thank you for that. And then I leave it over to Michiel for the closing words.
Well, I think we may have a few more questions, Martin. We have plenty of time. I see Marcus. Hi.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
How are you doing? Quick question. First of all, Marcus Usman speaking from Henkel. In an end-to-end testing, especially in our case, but I have seen also on your chart, Dave, that there is SAP involved. There are several applications involved, not only ODM. In our case, a test scenario would start in an SAP system with a sales order and a delivery, and then there are bidirectional interfaces involved. First of all, bringing the prepared test data into ODM, and then in the further execution of the process, there are other systems, again, with bidirectional interfaces involved, like, again, back to SAP, back and forth, but also to third-party systems. Does FloATS, in a way, support first test data preparation and also those cross-system testing? And if so, how does it support it?
It's a very good question, Marcus. I think I'll start, and we've got Kelvin Childs on the call. Kelvin, feel free to add something if I'm not covering it. But in terms of covering not just OTM and other applications, so fully aware, fully appreciate OTM is always part of an ecosystem. Many of our customers are SAP on the ERP side. So currently we are supporting OTM, Oracle Cloud applications, so GTM, WMS, and anything that's web services based, because we're instructing effectively a browser to go through a test case, a test scenario. We aren't covering SAP on-premise, but we are covering SAP, let's say, in the cloud. So if you move to HANA or move to a web services-based SAP instance, we can cover that full end-to-end cycle. But it would be web-based applications, not on-premises applications at this point, except for OTM, which we are covering on-premise as well as the cloud. In terms of test data, yeah, we are supporting the creation, the generation of test data. We are doing interface testing for Univar, so we are making sure that we're testing visibility, track and trace data coming back in, testing orders coming across. So we are generating that data as part of the test run, and we are doing that dynamically to support each test cycle. So certainly that's part of the scope.
Okay, thanks a lot. Very clear answer.
You're welcome, Marcus. Anything you want to add, Kelvin, or did I cover that okay?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it. I guess a little bit more specific for the inbound SAP interfaces. There's multiple variants of inbound order releases, etc., that would come in. So we in effect take live copies of each of those and we templatize them. And then within each template, we can dynamically generate brand new order releases. We can reset the planning dates, etc. So therefore, every time we run a cycle, we're taking what was a live inbound XML from SAP, and we're putting dynamic data in it to run it through. And again, on the outside of OTM, once it's done its processing, again, we can in effect generate the outbound transmissions, and we can validate the content based on the dynamic content. Within FloATS, we have the ability to, in effect, pass intelligent data from test script 1 to test script 2 to test script 3. So in a multiple application environment, we could, for example, start a test on application A, generate the orders, generate a unique ID, and we can pass that to test application B, which would then run on OTM, for example. So we are full handshaking from tests to test, as well as the fact that we can sort of templatize the inbound and outbound transmissions where we can't talk to SAP, for example. So hopefully that was a little bit more added value on how we're handling SAP, for example, and inbound and outbound transmissions.
Okay, thanks.
Fully clarified your question, Marcus?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? I saw some people starting to write questions, or I mean, please, feel free to add something in the chat, or come on, unmute yourself. We have a few minutes left, no problem. And of course, we are always available for follow-up outside of the webinar. Any specific questions or further requests for information. Contact details are part of the invite. So I think without any further questions or topics to discuss by the audience, leaves me to reflect on a very interesting webinar. Thank you for all your input. I think the last comments also, Kelvin, the slight deep dive, very interesting. Thanks for adding that. Dave, thank you very much for coming on the webinar again. Very interesting story. Martin, thank you very much for making the time and sharing your experiences and interesting inputs. And for the Flow guys, thank you as well. Thank you all very much for your participation, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.